Okay, so we got ourselves game number 2 here between Neeb and Hero Marine. We are currently on Acid Plant. We have got ourselves a second of best of 5 series. So let's jump into it. Now the score, as per usual, is not going to be displayed up until 1 minute. If you haven't seen the previous game and you're watching this on YouTube, please go back and watch that first game. It was quite an interesting outcome. Now, on the bottom right hand side here, we've got ourselves Hero Marine, who is playing Terran. He's on Team Mouse Sports. His name is Gabriel Sagat, age 20, and he is from Germany. His opponent is going to be Neeb. Now, Neeb is our team, no team, country is United States. He's 19, his name is Alex Sunderhaft, and he is our red Protoss up the top left. Now, as I said, Acid Plant is our map. The spoiler for the previous game is about to happen, so please, I do recommend going and watching that first game if you haven't done so already. So at the moment, we've got ourselves Neeb at 1, Hero Marine at 2. First game actually ended quite nicely, I think, in favor of Neeb. He had a very favorable trade with a few stalkers, and after that, Hero Marine just couldn't quite catch on with the economic advantage that Neeb decided to build up, and he kind of just ended up getting steamrolled at that point without much chance of return. Now, a bit of an exchange going down here from the SCV and the probe. I do think that in terms of direct damage, the actual SCV wins, but if the probe gets away just to regenerate a little bit of shields, obviously that advantage turns on its head. Ooh, is that actually a bit off? Yeah, I think it is, but I suppose it is Terran, so he can move that off shortly after. So another SCV coming down here just in case. Now this probe is just being very, very annoying at this point, trying to take out an SCV, which of course is very rare to actually happen, but sometimes it does occur where the player manages to snipe off one SCV with a probe. And shortly after that probe unfortunately dies, but it still is quite disruptive because you have to pull off a second SCV to protect it, or else of course cancel your building, which is not something you want to do. Now the Reaper is now up on the map, which means this probe is going to do one last line of scouting, and at that point is going to get killed. Now this is a very clever probe. He put down the pylon just to disrupt the pathing of that Reaper. The Reaper of course will take quite some time before he would destroy this building, so it didn't even bother. He knows that Neeb is going to end up cancelling that, otherwise it would be a waste of resources once a few Marines come up. Now from Neeb we've got ourselves a robotics facility coming out. He doesn't have a Stargate yet, which is actually interesting. He did not opt to go for Stargate that a lot of Protoss players tend to go for these days. I suppose maybe more for PvZ rather than PvT. Yeah, so he's going for 2 stalkers once again. We'll see if he's going to try to pull off the same kind of move where he gets a bit of harassment done and then at that point manages to snowball his economy. Now it looks like we've got ourselves a Reaper out on the field already, and he's gotten himself 2 Hellions. The 2 Hellions obviously going to try to get into the back, but there will be a block here, so probably not going to get in so easily unless they start taking damage from the stalker. Now a shield battery has actually been put up here near the entrance, which is a clever move for any sort of early engagement, but I don't know, it's a very safe start that he shouldn't really be doing, because in the first game he was a little bit extra aggressive and that worked out really nice for him, but we'll see how things work out. Now just to note, Hero Marine has opted to go for a medevac instead of a liberator this time around, which means that he could potentially do a drop into the main base to do a bit of economic damage. Now there is pylons here put down on the edges just to do a bit of scouting. It does give him that extra bit of warning just in case there is that medevac on the way. Now at this point we've got ourselves an observer as well on the map, so of course actually that's 2 observers, so he's going to be well aware of anything that comes out of Hero Marine's base. Going to potentially put them on the sides after he does a bit of scouting in the main. Now the beauty of observers against Terran is that if you see that your opponent has wasted his energy on a scan, you know that you've got a few seconds of safety for that observer to actually do a bit of scouting. Now let's see what he's going to do here. He does put down a mine on the ground just to kind of disrupt the movement of the Stalker. And I don't think that he's going to be able to do a whole lot with 2 Hellions and 1 Reaper. Oh, is he going to finish off the probe here? Yes, he kills off a probe. He's already killed off a few more. Now, this is actually in the main base. That is the drop that happened with the medevac managing to take out a total of 5 now. So there was 4 inside this base and 1 outside in the natural as well. This is actually quite a fantastic move. And the difference now, of course, with Widow Mines is once they have fired, if they're not picked back up by the medevac, they're pretty much sitting there exposed. They are visible to the enemy in this patch, which I think was done because they were just too menacing. If you don't have any detection, that they would just simply be too menacing in your opponent's base. Or even on the map. I mean, you fire off a shot and you don't know where it came from, and unless you're very, very, very observant, or if the opponent has placed it in a very obvious place, you just can't see that Widow Mine. You don't know where it is, and you will potentially lose a lot more than the Widow Mine is worth for practically nothing. So I kind of have mixed feelings about that change, because of course it does kind of make the Widow Mine semi-useless after it has fired 1 shot, up until the point that it recharges again. And it probably does reflect on the fact that less players tend to use them a lot more now. Less players tend to use them very often. So they might use them once or twice at the very beginning to fire off, and that's pretty much where it ends. So this Widow Mine is getting taken out there. Does have to, of course, run because he is revealed while he's recharging. This command center is actually the 3rd one here from Hero Marine, expanding once more, and we'll see what he kind of manages to pull off. So he didn't get stuck on the 2 base problem that he had previously. He did manage to expand out of this one. Being on equal bases to Neeb is going to be a very, very good thing for him. And we'll see what he manages to do here now. A siege tank and a few Marines here. Is he going to pick them off and do a bit of harassment with them? We're going to see now. These Hellions are actually still alive. That's quite impressive, considering they've been out on the map for quite some time at this point. Now, this is another interesting addition that has been made recently to StarCraft 2. The observers can actually deploy into this special movement thing. Can I actually see what exactly the description of it is? As far as I know, it increases the vision radius by like 20% or 25%, and then it makes them not movable. So if you select your whole army with the F2 key, you don't actually move the observer, and that is a very, very good addition to the game. I think that is absolutely fantastic. The same can be done with Overseers for the Zerg as well, which I think it just adds a whole lot of value to those units, because they're not just going to rush head first into an army of opponents and get destroyed immediately. So definitely a good addition. I think that he should probably deploy this one as well, just to make sure that it doesn't move on away and get destroyed very quickly. But I'm sure that he knows what he's doing a whole lot better than I do, being, of course, in this tournament. Now, at the moment, we've got ourselves a very leading supply, our army supply for Hero Marine, which I think he's not really taken advantage of. He did do a small bit of economic damage a little bit earlier to Neeb, but after that, he kind of just left it as it is without doing a whole lot with it. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I actually don't know what he's planning right now. He is, of course, building up his army. He's got a lot of Marines, a few Liberators being built up. He is getting his level, is that level 2 shields? Oh, sorry, no, that's level 1 shield. So level 1 shield on the way. He does have the combat shields for Marines as well, so he is definitely on the way to building up his forces. Now, Neeb has actually opted to go for a fort base. This is going to be a crucial time for Hero Marine to attack. I don't know whether he's seen that, which I will actually check. No, he has not seen that expansion, so that means that he is blindly attacking, but it is actually quite a good thing for him to do, simply because he is 1 base up. Now, Neeb is moving straight in here. He is actually managing to break pretty much through this whole army, which is actually surprising, considering Hero Marine, his army supply was actually a lot greater. But it is unfortunate for Hero Marine here, simply that he lost all of his tanks quite quickly. I think that his Liberators weren't into the best of positions to defend against this, and this is actually not looking very good for Hero Marine, despite the fact that he's got the leading army supply by a small margin. Now, being a Terran, of course, it is quite difficult to break him, because he's got himself siege tanks in position, but we're going to see whether Neeb decides to back on out of here, or whether he is just going to scout out a bit and then regroup and push out again. Now, it looks like we do have a few High Templars in the mix as well. A lot of Marines coming out for Hero Marine, so these High Templars are going to are going to be very, very effective to take out larger groups of those Marines. The question is going to be, well, of course, will Hero Marine be able to dodge those? Because that is where the skill cap is. Managing to separate out your units, dodge storms like that, and just prevent that additional damage that skill shots such as Psionic Storms do. Now Hero Marine moving in here with a Medevac and Marines. Now this is interesting, more pylons being put down by Neeb, which means that he could potentially be expanding soon again, but I think it might be a little bit too early for him because he's already had the delayed economy of this. Now with four fully functional bases, he will definitely have the economic advantage, as we can see on the numbers here as well. But we'll see how that, of course, affects the game, since they are being quite passive. I think that this game has actually not had a whole lot of action in comparison to the typical game. I mean, we're at 10 minutes 40. Let's have a quick look at units lost. I mean, 80 units, I suppose. This is mostly Neeb killing off units with the Colossi, and 50 units killed for Hero Marine is not actually a whole lot for 50 or for 11 minutes into the game. I think it's quite a passive game so far, and of course, being in such a high level tournament, it's mostly the pressure of do I attack now? Will this cost me the game, or will I be able to finish off my opponent at this point? And of course, Neeb, while he did have a bit of an army advantage when he destroyed the fight in the middle, the thing that he has to worry about, of course, is drops from his opponent. Will the drop go into his base directly? And if that's the case, will he have to go for a base trade situation, or will he be able to defend off from his base and recover? Now, being on 4 bases already, he does have quite a good chance of surviving a strong, or not a strong, but a big base invasion. Now the siege tanks are in place here. The Liberators are not in a great position, especially considering there's not really any zealots here. So the Liberators wouldn't really be firing whatsoever up until the point that all of the siege tanks will get destroyed. Oh no, and he's getting a flank here. This is actually huge. There's going to be a delay between the Liberators setting up here. They're now set up, but the Stalkers are going to be a little bit further behind. I think he did lose a few of those to the Liberators, but yeah, a drop, or rather a big Zealot engagement here. 17 SCVs destroyed. This is actually quite a big deal right now. This is Hero Marine's 3rd base, and it just got completely shut down, with a few SCVs even getting picked off here along the way. This is absolutely a massive deal, and now Hero Marine knows that if he does not do a whole lot of damage with his army, then he could fall far too far behind to actually recover out of it. So army supply is favoring Neeb, worker supply is favoring Neeb, and of course the number of bases also favoring Neeb at the moment. So gonna have to be very, very careful at the moment to make sure that he does not. And that's it. Neeb calls game number 2. So wow, so we've got ourselves a very good start for Neeb here. Looks like Hero Marine just couldn't quite handle Neeb's army composition. I think that the fact that he had Colossi mixed into his army and the positioning of the Liberators just did not work out really well for Hero Marine. I think that has been his major fault right now, where he just keeps losing units unnecessarily. So that is pretty much that for game number 2. We're going to be moving on to game number 3 shortly.